Thank you, Deputy Peadar.
And I suppose I want to start off by, first of all, paying tribute and thanking the teachers around the country. I think COVID-19 has been an eye-opener for many families with regards to the work, the skill, the dedication and the patience that is involved in educating young children around the country. And that gratitude that has been displayed by the political class should not be forgotten about when this particular crisis subsides. And I mentioned that with regards to equal pay for teachers and with regards to issues of CID for teachers that need to be addressed, Minister, and I hope you will address them. I also want to say to students that the Leaving Cert is an important exam. It does have an effect on your next step and with regard to education and your career. But it is by no means a be-all and an end-all with regards to your progress through life, through education and through work. There are many hundreds of different avenues to success in your life and through education, your careers ahead of you that can still be taken no matter what happens in this particular exams. Obviously the Minister hasn't had an easy time. It's been difficult for the government. The speed of this particular virus going through the planet, the unknown nature of the virus as well has made decisions very difficult. And he's only had a number of months to get to grips with this. But one of my major problems is that the display by the government so far with regards to the Leaving Cert has been a masterclass in indecision. And the Leaving Cert is such a stressful time anyways, that indecision, that speculation, the constant chopping and changing of positions and decisions has really only heaped the pressure and stress on students over the last 2 months. There are many problems still with the plan that's outlined so far by the government, in my view. I think it's significant that the actual Leaving Cert still won't be held till November now. And this means that the results won't be available until the new year. Consequently, for those who choose to sit the Leaving Cert, it is unlikely, from what I understand, that they will be able to make it into university this year. So those who take to sit the exam will have to take a year out of education. They may have to try and get a job, or if not, have a year without income. And they'll have to watch their classmates and their friends move on with the rest of their lives. And that's a massive cost to many young men and women in our country. And it's a cost that people just won't be willing to risk. Originally, Minister, you said that you had planned for the Leaving Cert to be scheduled in late July and early August. So what I'm asking here is that we get a definitive timeline with regards to the Leaving Cert. When will the results of the predicted marks be announced? When will the appeals process happen? When will the CAO offers be made? And what effect, if any, will it make to the start of the new university year? And given the small numbers that we're probably talking about and the massive amount of classes that exists around the country, will the Minister commit to scheduling the actual exams to allow students sit the Leaving Cert and still make it to their college courses this year? There's also significant concern with regards to pressures that are being brought to bear with regards to teachers. And anecdotally, I've heard since your announcement of the predicted marks that there has been an increase of the communications by students and parents with teachers, many of them rich with compliments at the moment. And I know one teacher who received about half a dozen emails from one family just before lunchtime, and another parent who contacted their teacher telling the teacher exactly what points that the students needed to get their college results. Another student with low output since May 7th has become the most prolific person in their class with regards to the level of output that's happening. So there must be balance brought to bear here. We need to protect teachers from undue pressure and influence, but we also need to make sure that students are not isolated from supports and from communications from those teachers in their time of need. And a key question, I'd like you to address it here today: will teachers be open to litigation? Will teachers, principals and schools be indemnified against legal action? Can we at least give them the confidence here today that they, no matter what pressures they come towards, that they won't have to deal with that particular issue? I also want to say that if we're going to protect teachers and help students we need to make sure that the system is as fair and as transparent as possible. And some of the questions I have on that is, some students have completed project work, others haven't. Woodwork and engineering work is in various stages of completion. Some students have gone on field trips and started projects, others haven't. Is it the case that work will be allowed to be done on those projects over the next number of weeks? So we're in a situation where teachers will be marking complete projects, semi-complete projects, or even non-existent projects, and they don't have a marking scheme to help them with that. How will they do that? Will it be the teacher that does that, or will there be an independent marker who will come in to do that as well? I understand that some sections of the home economics class has already been corrected by the State Exam Commission, yet it's proposed that it's returned to the teachers, that they will actually have to remark it themselves. Why is this, Minister? It doesn't make sense that something that's already corrected is going to be returned to teachers for recorrection. To simplify the process, what I would suggest is that happens over the next while is that teachers are allowed to use 3 of the 4 of the following exams: 5th year Christmas exams, 5th year summer exams, 6th year Christmas exams, and the mock exams, and to take an average of 3 of those 4. The data is already in the school system. It's fair, it's been carried out fair, and it's transparent. So it'll protect the teachers as well. And the last point I want to make, and I want to add my voice to the issue with regards school profiling. What is the extent of the profile of the school will have on the actual marking? So in other words, will it correct or change the results by 10%, 15%? What exactly is the element of the school's history that will be part of the future result of that particular student? Profiling obviously places people into boxes. That's what it's there for. And education should be about students breaking out of the particular boxes that they're in. And it's clear that profiling in many other aspects of life is a form of discrimination. So what steps will the Minister take to make sure that we don't have discrimination in this fashion?
Dara, you have a little time this time.
Thank you, Peadar Toibin, our Deputy, Peadar Toibin. Look, the equal pay for teachers, as you know, it was subject to big conversations prior to the last election and also prior to the pandemic, and anything to do with that issue will be part of the next pay talks. In decision, let me explain what happened here. Once we postponed the exams from June to the 29th of July, I instructed my officials at that very same time to look at calculated grade model, a model which I had my own reservations about, went public on it. But once I started informing myself through that process and seeing how the checks and balances come into that system, I became more convinced that rather than holding a poorly run Leaving Cert, that it would be fairer for the student and safer for the student from a public health point of view to go for this model. But why did that take a while to do that? 2 reasons. We had to get legal advice, and if we didn't get that legal advice, the SEC would be running that calculated model today, and they didn't have the authority to do it because in the Education Act 1998 they were delegated with the power, the SEC was delegated with the power for running and correcting the exams. So they don't have that power anymore. It would require legislative change to give them that power, but obviously everybody knows here why we can't do that, and that's why I had to get Cabinet approval to get the executive authority to set up a new group within the department. And the second thing, apart from the legal advice, was a consultation. We needed to reach out to the teachers. I certainly didn't want to see teachers being bounced into a decision that was going to be announced on the radio or on television or on Twitter that we were going for the calculated model. So they were part of that process as well. That engagement was really, really important. The definitive timeline, we will continue to work with the stakeholders. We're going to have guidelines, strict and specific and clear advice and guidelines for teachers to to ensure that they know in terms of the marking, in terms of the professional boundaries between parent, between teacher, between student, between teacher. So that work has already started, and we'll be in a position next week to do that. But let's say, finally, just say in relation to when we'll be in position for the exam results to come out. I'm on public record. I want it to come out as close to the traditional date as possible. But we have to remember now that even the assessment and teachers are not assessing grades at this stage because they're waiting until they get instruction from the guidelines. And just to reassure, and this is an important point, Chairman, and we need to continue to work through this, and a few of the deputies have raised it, each school will be determining the result for each class and each individual student.
Okay, thanks, Minister. Moving on
not
to
the Department of Education, but the school.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Janney.